Hi everyone, Neil here. I'd like to delve into a topic today that's been the focus point for all of us here in South Africa for quite a while now, and that is the Fees Must Fall campaign. I also want to address something that many people have either spoken about or not even thought of. Academics have shared their views. We've heard student protesters touching on the issue and the topic, and that specific topic is higher education, or more specifically, private higher education. And is it a viable option for us here in South Africa? Well, the Fees Must Fall protest has everyone talking at the moment, and that's perhaps something we can get into on another time. But I really want to get into looking at the perception and especially the myths surrounding private higher education in South Africa. You know, it's strange when we speak about private schooling in South Africa. A lot of the time, the perception or the generalization is that the private schools often are better than the public schools. Well, the reverse is opposite when it comes to higher education. And why is that? And we need to ask ourselves, why is it that there is a perception out there that the public universities should be and is the only option, whereas private institutions should not be considered an alternative? Well, I submit to you that in a 2012 article written by Dr. Felicity Coughlin, she writes in this article sentiments that I feel that I share. And coming from a private tertiary institution and a private tertiary institution background, I think it's important that we have to look at these issues and address them head on. Well, I'd like to submit to you 5 myths that are often quoted, possibly in or out of context, by the general public, academics, or ill informed students on private higher education in South Africa. Consider the following. Myth number 1: private institutions do not comply with the same standards as public ones. Well, I submit to you that all registered institutions in South Africa follow a stringent higher education quality council accreditation requirement. They must follow that, as well as the equally stringent and onerous registration requirements from the Department of Higher Education and Training in South Africa. And that means both the private tertiary institution as well as the public university must conform to the exact same standards by the same accreditation bodies in South Africa. Myth number 2: qualifications from private institutions are not recognized. Well, as I have mentioned, that all institutions must be registered with the Department of Higher Education, whether they be private or whether they be public universities. But all accredited higher education institutions or the qualifications are registered within NQF, and that is the National Qualifications Framework. That is done through SAQA, which is the South African Qualifications Authority. So all qualifications registered in South Africa must meet that same criteria. And therefore, once it's registered, both would then be recognized on the same level. They would be on par with one another. There can be no question and there can be no doubt that higher education in South Africa follows the same stringent requirements. And whether they be private or public institutions, you would get the same level and standard of qualification. Myth number 3: the same education costs more at a private institution. Well, it's true that some of the private institutions do offer a qualification at a higher price tag than that of the public university. Although it must be noted that that's not the case with every institution out there. The onus rests on the student to research and find out what the cost of each institution is, where he or she is interested in acquiring a qualification. Well, I also submit to you that we have to look at this, and when we do look at this from a value proposition, we find that the private institutions oftentimes come out a lot stronger in what they have to offer students out there. You know, private institutions oftentimes offer smaller campuses than most, if not all, universities in South Africa. This means that more personal attention could be given to students, which allows them to flourish in an environment like that. We don't find that with many of the public institutions. We also find that because at a public institution, the onus then rests on the students for the fees or the fee payer, we find that students have a lot more leverage in terms of what they have at a private institution. We find that absent at our public universities. And what we see in the current state is that would actually have made a big change in how things were dealt with. However, when we do pull up this value proposition, when we look at that from that point of view, there are several ways in which a private choice might offer some extra benefits. Like I've mentioned, the campuses are smaller than at virtually all public universities. We also feel that students have the ability to walk away if they are not happy with service delivery. Small and well-serviced campuses are also generally secure. They offer a learning environment largely free from unrest, from risks, and from class interruptions. Myth number four. Myth number four asks the question whether private education are qualification mills. In other words, do they just give out qualifications because they want to make money? Well, because private institutions are dependent on students paying fees, the perception exists in some people's mind that these institutions want to alienate or won't want to alienate students by failing them. This is clearly an illogical approach, because if an institution has a low standard and hands out their qualification to any person too easily, those qualifications will become devalued and it will become undesirable in the employment market. So then, qualification devaluation is clearly academically undesirable, but from a substantiality point of view, it would be bad business to let your standards drop at a public institution. Word of mouth, of course, is the most powerful and successful recruitment mechanism which is used, which means that the quality offered at private institutions is fiercely protected by the best institutions. A compromise in quality will result in less confidence, and it could be disastrous for private institutions. So I don't see that as being a logical argument, and therefore that myth, in my opinion, debunked. Myth number five, when we look at that, myth number five suggests that quality exists on a continuum from a high quality at the public institution to a low quality at a private institution. Well, this is what the reality is. The reality is quality is not measured by the extent to which the taxpayer funds education. Some public institutions in South Africa are leaders in the field of research, and others focus on quality teaching. Others are excellent universities of technology. However, that does not equate them being the right environment for all students, for all courses. Being a public institution also does not mean that all programs that are offered are the highest quality. That's just not true. Choices about tertiary education must be based on the assessment fit between the personal aspiration, circumstances, and institutional choices available. They have to be the choice of the student. Well, Dr. Klachlan says that at the time that the time has come for private higher education in South Africa to rise, and I agree. I say that now is the time, but I also want to encourage students, when looking for an institution, ensure that the institution that you are studying with is accredited, is a credible institution, and offers you the value that you are looking for. Undoubtedly, there are many institutions, and I foresee this probably going to rise now, but it will be very, very important for you to ensure that you find an institution which offers you that quality. So, those are my sentiments on these 5 myths, and I believe that these myths, without a doubt, debunked. For arguments on private higher education and why I believe that right now it's the best option in South Africa, and why I candidate. If they are serious about improving and bettering themselves, our country and our economy, then look at a credible private institution. I thank you for watching this video, and please feel free to leave a comment, leave a question or two, and it's something that I would like to engage on. And thank you for taking the time to watch.